And good evening and welcome. We are back for another season of the Big High School Sports Show on 98.9 WXCO, online at WXCO.FM, mobile devices and Alexa by searching WXCO and on the Civic Media app. And this year as well, we are broadcasting live on YouTube. Go to youtube.com and our WXCO channel on YouTube, and you can watch us and listen to us every week. In fact, this week we are live on YouTube on Tuesday evening because always in week one, that's the one week we don't do it live, is because Wausau West gets me in to announce the Meet the Warriors event at Tom Field on the Wednesday before the season opener. So while we air it on Wednesday on the radio, we are airing it live on YouTube here on Tuesday. I am Chad Holmes, and once again, very happy to welcome across the table for the football season the former head coach of the Wausau West Warriors, Jason Foster. Yeah. Great to have you back.
It's great to be back. It definitely you set your calendar by how high school football. So it's exciting. School doesn't start for another week and a half or 2 weeks yet. So it's great to get those couple football games in and start talking football. Fall can officially begin.
Absolutely. Coming up during the program here this evening, we have a couple of guests, as we do each and every week. We always try to bring in a coach guest and a student athlete guest. And our coach guest is a man that is perfect so far in terms of Wisconsin Valley Conference championships. He's 1 for 1, but now he's got a new gig. He's the new head coach of Wisconsin Rapids Lincoln High School, Mike Krenz. And of course, he had taken over for a year at Stevens Point a couple of years back, won the conference championship, but did not get the permanent job, which was always a bit of a head scratcher. But he is now back in the Valley at Wisconsin Rapids, taking over for Tony Biolo, who had a long and exceptionally successful run as the head coach of the Red Raiders. So we'll talk to Mike Krenz about the new job, and it's a big job. It's been a program that's had some struggles recently, but we'll find out what to expect from Wisconsin Rapids here in 2025. And then at the start of the second hour of the show, we'll talk to Xavier Edwards from DC Everest, multi-sport athlete. Just last week announced he was going to be competing athletically, I think in football and track at Minnesota State Mankato, if I'm not mistaken. And he had a terrific year helping DC Everest football last year to a state semifinal berth. He was a big cog in the winter on the basketball court. And then, of course, in track and field as well. So we'll talk to Xavier Edwards about his senior year, talk about his decision on college and everything else as well, just after 7 o'clock. So that's all coming up. A little bit later in the program, we're going to delve into the week one action. But to start things off, we're going to take a look at the conferences, both in terms of what happened a year ago and maybe some ideas. And I will say right off the top, it's hard to predict in high school athletics because you don't see all these teams yet. You just have returners you have an idea on, but you don't know about some kids that may pop up from the middle school level, or sometimes a transfer will come in as well. So a lot of question marks, but we'll try to give a few ideas on some of the top returners as well. And let's start off with the Wisconsin Valley Conference, the Valley/Big Rivers Conference. Big Rivers East, because you have the two Eau Claire schools involved in it. But last year, it was DC Everest winning the conference championship. In league games, they were 6-0. Something that, again, it took me a while to figure out. Those crossover games count towards playoff qualification, but do not count in the conference race. And they lost their one crossover game to Chippewa Falls, but it did not count in the conference. So Everest 6-0. And then, of course, they went on to win 3 games in the playoffs, all on the road, finished 10-3 overall. Stevens Point was second at 5-1. Marshfield 4-2 in the conference, but they lost all their non-conference games and crossover game, but still were able to get into the playoffs. 4-6 on the season ended up. Wausau West was 3-3, 4th place in the conference. They finished 5-5 overall. And then Eau Claire North, Wisconsin Rapids Lincoln, and Eau Claire Memorial all were 1-5 last season. North was 2-7 overall. Rapids and Memorial were 1-8. And one of the things that I was thinking about when we were talking about kind of bridging last year to this year is that there was a thin line, I think, between a deep run in the playoffs and level one being out when it came to the big schools in our area, the Division I schools. You had DC Everest. We talked about the fact they were maybe underseeded, but at the same time, they went out there and won 3 consecutive games to make it to the state semifinals. And then the other teams all lost in level one, but could have won. I thought they were, Wausau West even had a chance to win at Waunakee. But in the end, they were one and done. The other teams, a thin line, I thought, generally, but it was a step forward for the Valley because we have not seen a deep run like Everest had in a while.
Yeah, I think the other X factor in the Valley playoff scenario last year was where the teams went. We kind of went south for the first time, and got to see some different teams. And I think Everest was very fortunate. Obviously, they had a ton of talented kids and had a fantastic season, new head coach, and everything was going well. But it kind of the opponents lined up. They didn't end up seeing those Fox Valley Association foes that oftentimes nip the Wisconsin Valley Conference in the bud when they're trying to
until the
make
semifinals.
playoff ones. Exactly. So it was kind of nice. It'll be interesting to see with all the changes in the playoff format. I'm sure we're going to talk a ton about it as we go through the season this year, but it'll be interesting to see how that lines up and how those sections kind of materialize at the end of the season.
When you look now towards 2025, obviously there's always change. That's the way it is in high school athletics. There's always change. And for DC Everest, they had a very experienced quarterback in Logan George, who's gone. You had a bell cow running back, the player of the year, the offensive player of the year, Blake Bankston. But they do have some talent back. You got Xavier Edwards. We'll talk to him later on. You do have a very young lineman that made second team. I've never seen. I printed out all conference teams to get ready for this and saw Chris Ferrario, second team offense as a freshman. Yeah. I mean, that was pretty amazing. A couple of defenders back as well. It looks as though there's going to be, I think, maybe a changing of the guard a little bit. When you change quarterbacks, that's always, but I think there's some talent there for DC Everest as well. So I think Everest looks like a team that should contend again.
Well, for sure. I had a chance to watch them a little bit at their scrimmage last week, Friday, and Xavier definitely is their bell cow through the air. He caught a lot of passes in the scrimmage on Friday, and I don't, nobody really wears much of their jerseys or knowing who's who in a scrimmage, but they definitely had somebody who could throw the ball. Obviously Logan George is an outstanding quarterback, but I think when you're in a program like Everest and what they do on offense, I think you have several running backs and several receivers, and that quarterback was looking for their opportunity. And the one thing I remember from a Wausau West standpoint last year, being able to watch the JV games as well, is that both Everest and Spash had outstanding JV teams as well. So those kids are seasoned and ready to get their chance on Friday nights.
Curious about Marshfield. First, I've heard a couple of rumbles. Again, it's just, that people talk that maybe Marshfield is getting ready for another good season. I think last season there were, a lot of grumbles the other way, that Marshfield was going in the wrong direction. They were able to find a way into the postseason. I'm curious to see if Marshfield takes that step forward. I mean, obviously they lose Brooks Hinton, who was such a major factor, but even him at times didn't have the ability to get him the ball maybe as much as he could have, and they found ways to win. I'm curious to see if Marshfield is going to return to where they probably think they should be most of the time.
Yeah, for sure. I think the one thing, if I recall back to last year, how much we talked about, they struggled to score points. They had played some really tough games early. I know the New Richmond game was really tough, and they played them. They had a really good game. They actually played them tough in the playoffs, if I recall,
yes, they did,
as well. But overall, throughout the course of the season, they really struggled to score points. And that's kind of when you look to make a jump from one season to the next, you got to be able to score points in this conference. And scoring points comes based on your athletes, right? You need that quarterback, you need the good running back, you need the receiver, something that Marshfield has historically had a ton of, right?
Yeah.
Obviously their basketball team made it to state last year, so they still don't have a shortage of the athletes, but the last few years they have not seemed to carry that over into their football program. So yeah, I'm very interested to see who they get out this year and what it looks like.
Wausau West, obviously, Wausau West probably better than any other of the teams, and they again last year it was a year where it was sort of it was stop and start at times. I thought, they had some really good performances. Other times it was a little bit more difficult. And for Wausau West, again, a new quarterback, a little bit of experience with Joe Gravine. Some very good linemen have graduated, and I think that's a big question mark as well. But as you look at Wausau West, what do you see?
I see a team that has experience, but at the same time is pretty young as well. I think it's either 11 or 12 seniors, which is probably about as low in a senior count as they've had in a really long time, or a school that size usually has. So they're going to rely on some senior leadership from those guys. But as far as starters in depth, they're going to look obviously heavy into that junior class. And then with those your numbers, you actually are probably going to throw some sophomores on the field. And I think one of the strengths of the team, in addition to those senior leaders, is a handful of sophomores who had a bunch of opportunities last year. And Miles Wavigal, one thing we know about Wausau West is they're going to run the football. And what I noticed from being at practice a little bit and watching the scrimmages, we do have Miles is back, but you also have several other guys who I think young up and comers who have the potential to be really nice ball carriers. Shea Jones at tight end. Yeah. When you talk about linemen, you sometimes forget about your tight end as being one of your linemen, and Shea coming back as an all conference tight end, I think is really good. Joe stepped up, and when he was healthy last year, played a big role at quarterback. So I think those are all pieces of the puzzle. But when you're filling them in with younger guys who haven't had a lot of experience, it'll be a work in progress to see how the Warriors pan out this year.
And then you have the 3 teams that were 1-5 in the conference: Wisconsin Rapids, Eau Claire Memorial, and Eau Claire North. And I was saying to you before the show and getting ready, one program that does seem to have a lot of production back and perhaps some pretty good experienced talent back that could make a jump is Eau Claire North. I was looking at a couple of their receivers. They had Zach Shipman, who had 45 catches for nearly 600 yards. You had a lineman you talked about last year, seeing Kenton Mondo, 6'7", 310. And they also have, again, that's just a couple of players in their lineup that are back. They have some bumps. Obviously, when you put out young players, sometimes there's going to be some bumps, but it does appear that maybe for the first time in a while, Eau Claire North could be a bit of a thorn in the side of their opponents.
Yeah, and I think the one thing they have now, and I don't know exactly, I think it's his third year, maybe even fourth. They have some consistency at head coach. They were turning that over quite a bit for a while, so he's been there for a minute. From the snapshot from last year, the one game that I had the opportunity to see him live, you go in and offensively, they have a lot of weapons, and their success is predicated upon running a lot of plays, moving the chains, and keeping it going. And the game I saw him in last year, too many mistakes, too many turnovers, too many penalties. And so their drives just continued to stall out. So if you play good defense and you play discipline, but those are the types of things where you can make a big leap from one year to the next. Those are the types of things you can clean up, and they're returning some guys, have some good leaders. So yeah, definitely a team to watch.
Wisconsin Rapids, I guess I would be most curious about is the changes, because when you have a major change, you knew what you were going to get with a Tony Biolo team in terms of the formations and the type of offense being run, especially. I imagine there's going to be some significant change.
Yeah, I would say, I mean, one of the things that you talk about with Rapids is they play option football. So it's a blessing or a curse, depending on how you look at it. I mean, if you have an outstanding fullback and another guy who can run the ball, that's a really successful offense, especially at the quarterback position. I would imagine Coach Krenz is going to mix that up a little bit. The one thing Coach Krenz did an outstanding job of at Spash was running their offense. So I'm sure he's going to put his own stamp on that program. But the one thing you know about Rapids, you look at their wrestling program, right? Perennial powerhouse, tough. The other thing you always know about Rapids is those kids are going to live in the weight room. So strength plays such a big role. And Tony was a great coach, great leader in the state of Wisconsin from a coaches association standpoint. But sometimes new blood and some change gets people excited. And what, like you said earlier, when Coach Krenz took over Spash for that year, they won a conference championship. So yeah, it'll be interesting I'm looking forward to talking to him tonight, and it'll be nice to kind of see if he's willing to tip his hand a little bit, what's going to look like.
And Eau Claire Memorial, I think the biggest number for the Abes is they got to find a way to slow down teams. They gave up 425 points last year. We've seen a few of these schools that like to run this fast break offense. Boy, you better make sure you get a few first downs, or else it's going to kill you on the other side.
Yeah, they struggled kind of from top to bottom last year. They weren't very competitive. Them and Rapids, I think, were kind of that game that looked for each team to get a win last year. But again, a lot of things happen in the offseason when you're building a program like that. I know it's a little bit of merry-go-round with their coach, but it was their coach who left there last year, and his Superior's head coach again, right? When Superior, Eau Claire Memorial back to Superior. Last year, Eau Claire Memorial had a new head coach again. So again, year 2 in the program, great opportunity for them to take a step forward.
let's touch on the Great Northern Conference. Last year, again, it was a terrific year for Medford. 7-0. They went 10-2 overall. They made it to level 3, which was as deep as they've made a playoff run in a very tough bracket. Then you had other playoff teams, Wausau East and Mosinee. Wausau East in their first year in the GNC went 5-2, and they were 6-4 overall. Mosinee 5-2, 6-4 overall. I think both teams probably had some lost hours of sleep, though, in those level 1 games that were so close. Both teams played very tight games when their seasons came to an end. Merrill, likewise. I mean, they got into the playoffs at 3-4 in the conference. And then they went to Onalaska. They had a shot to win that football game, and nobody, I think, thought they were going to win that football game. Ended up losing 13-8, but had a great effort in that one. Lakeland also squeezed in 3-4 conference mark, 5-5 overall. Then Antigo was 2-5, Tomahawk 2-5, Rhinelander 1-6. The thing about the GNC every year, especially I thought last year when we were talking about it, everybody could beat everybody else, maybe except for Medford. They were kind of the team at the top, but going into this year, Medford lost a lot of seniors, and I know that they have a lot of question marks going in.
Yeah, I think when you look at all the conferences we're going to talk about today, I said this one's probably the most difficult to predict if you were looking to kind of make some, hey, obviously Medford's earned the right to kind of sit at the top going into the season, but Wausau East, outstanding season last year, also graduated a ton of seniors. Mosinee brings back Treve Stoffel. We were commenting, we were looking at the all-conference teams from last year. In the Great Northern Conference, through the entire conference, they are only returning 2 people from first team all conference last year. One of them is Treve Stoffel, who was first team both ways, and the other one was the kicker from Tomahawk. So talk about a wide open race. And I had a chance to watch Lakeland in the scrimmage the other day. They had some really nice kids. Looked like their numbers were in a really good spot. Like we talked about, Merrill had a phenomenal end of the season, so I'd imagine their off season was exciting. And Tomahawk Sky has a good run of athletes right now in their hockey and football program, a lot of crossover between those 2 sports there. And for the size of their school, I would say they felt good about where they ended last year and how they held their own in that conference.
There are a number of GNC teams that are bringing back second team performers, though. That's going to be the interesting aspect, because often those first teamers are kind of the leaders, seniors, and leaders both in terms of the stats and in terms of the locker room. It's which of these guys that may have been really good in what you call supporting roles, right, who can step up. And that's the process of high school sports, isn't it?
And you look at the bottom of that conference too, and you look and see Rhinelander's there, and Rhinelander's a team that, I mean, you're just sitting back waiting, right? I mean, Rhinelander has all of the things in place to be a good football program and get back there. Not too long ago.
They were 1-6 in the conference. Their one win was against 5-2 East. Yeah. I mean, second place teams. And it was really the case of where they couldn't get over the hump. What about East? Obviously, there's a lot of excitement now because, boy, nothing gets a fire going in a program more than a little bit of success, and they got some success last year.
Yeah, I think that combined with what we just talked about in this conference, I think it's wide open. So I think everybody knows that going into the offseason, East brings back their athletes, and I mean, graduated some outstanding people who played football, played basketball. They had a really nice run in baseball this year as well. But those kids, they now have a program again, right? So these kids understand. They learn from one another, the work ethic. You have your leaders of your team. I know at Perimeter Camp this year, the Wisconsin Valley Camp in town over at DC Everest, I know that there was some really nice kid looking at quarterback, nice running back. So I think East brings back some quality players. I think Coach Kramer does a great job leading that program over there. So there's no question they're going into the season looking to compete for a conference championship.
And they got some kids that did produce. Ian Stahl was a running back. We got nearly 100 carries for nearly 600 yards last year. You have as well Caden Meverden, who was second team on defense and honorable mention on offense. So again, you go a little deeper, it does look like East has some guys who have performed, who have tried to take them maybe to that next step on the ladder. Because I was actually talking to a Medford broadcaster in the spring when West played baseball over there, and he was saying that maybe this coming year was a year where they're going to be in a little rebuilding, but they got a lot of good stuff coming after that. So if you're somebody who wants to knock Medford off their perch, this might be the year. And that's the thing for good programs. Right. They tend to reload, and even if you have a little bit of a hiccup, they're going to be right back. So when you get the chances, you got to take advantage, right?
And they have the winning tradition too. So even when they're down a little bit, that's still a tough team to play and a tough place to play as well.
We're going to take a 1-minute timeout and then come back, talk about some of the other conferences that we cover. here each and every week on the Big High School Sports Show. Got the CWC Large, the CWC Merriwood, and then, of course, 8-player football still to talk about. Coming up a little bit later on in this hour, we'll be talking to Mike Krenz, the head football coach at Wisconsin Rapids Lincoln. And then starting off the second hour, we'll be talking to Xavier Edwards, who is the senior from DC Everest. And then, of course, we'll preview the week 1 action after that. So still plenty to come here on the Big High School Sports Show on 98.9 WXCO.
Are you passionate about local high school sports? So are we. WXCO 98.9 FM is proud to be the only station in Wausau bringing you live, play-by-play coverage of high school sports, game after game, season after season. But we can't do it alone. We are currently seeking local sponsors and community partners who believe in the power of sports to bring people together, inspire youth, and energize our hometown pride. Promote your business, support our local athletes, be heard by thousands of loyal local listeners. If your business is interested in supporting live sports broadcasts while gaining valuable exposure, now is the perfect time to become a WXCO sports sponsor. Message us on our Facebook page or call or text our sales rep, Aaliyah, at 608-573-1597. That's 608-573-1597. Let's keep Wausau High School sports on the air together.
And welcome back. It is the Big High School Sports Show on 98.9 WXCO. Online at WXCO.FM, mobile devices and Alexa by searching WXCO, and on the Civic Media app. And you can also tune in on YouTube, youtube.com and the 98.9 WXCO channel. With Jason Foster, I'm Chad Holmes, and let's talk about the CWC. CWC Large, and a really good conference, some really traditionally good football programs. Of course, Stratford, they built another wing yet for all these trophies they're getting. Another undefeated year, another state championship for the Stratford Tigers, another terrific year for Wittenberg-Burnhamwood. They went 6-1 in the conference, finished 8-3 overall. Amherst, again, even on their down years, they're really good years. They're 5-2 in the conference, 8-3 overall. Wyowega Fremont got into the playoffs at 4-3 in the conference, finished 5-5. Then Colby, 3-4, 3-7 overall. Marathon, 2-5, 3-6 overall. Spencer Columbus, 1-6, 2-7. Loyal Greenwood, 0-7, 1-8. But I think I mentioned to you earlier, so much of whether or not you're successful with wins and losses is what conference you're in or who you play, because some conferences are stronger than others. And I think that anybody that's in this conference, you gotta bring on the big boy pants every week.
Oh, for sure. And if you make the playoffs, you've earned it, and you're battle tested. You know, the one thing with Stratford again this year, new coach. So Coach Tuck stepped down at the end of last year. So they'll be
nice to do it after a 14-0 season, right?
Yeah, 14-0 and three consecutive state championships. So not bad. And they keep moving you up a division. So maybe it's time to hand the torch down. But ultimately, I also know that they did graduate a lot of kids. That's not to say that they're not going to reload as well. But I think that crew that just finished up at Stratford certainly was a team that a very close-knit group of guys who were together and won those 3 consecutive state championships. But you look down, I mean, Wittenberg-Burnhamwood is right there every single year, and it's not a coincidence or a joke, and they compete. Amherst, we know their tradition and who they bring with, and Wyowega Fremont last year kind of said, yeah, we have some tradition too, and are going to compete like crazy. And then, oh yeah, there's a Colby and a Marathon in there.
Actually, I think Marathon has the capability of making a step forward. You got True Thurs. He missed a number of games last year, and he kind of is the engine for that group, both offensively and I think defensively as well. If he is able to stay healthy, and that's the big if, obviously, you put a lot of weight on that young man's shoulders, I think that the Marathon Red Raiders have the opportunity to take some steps forward. Another youngster, Garrett Bracewell, who was a sophomore last year, he was really good last year. He had 39 catches, 589 yards and 5 touchdowns. And again, that was with your quarterback being in and out of the lineup. I thought he was exceptionally good for Marathon as well. But Thurs played only, I think, 5 of the games, still had 880 yards through the air, 338 on the ground. A new coach for Marathon as well. But I do think that Marathon, the biggest reason maybe their record won't be that much better is the competition. But I do think they're going to be a much better football team.
I think you make a great point with True Thurs. I think True Thurs is the type of athlete who would start on every single team in that conference. I mean, he'd probably start on every single team in the Wisconsin Valley Conference. He's just that. I mean, you watch him in all 3 sports and what an outstanding player and athlete he is. And I'd say the biggest thing is what happened to that team when he wasn't in there last year. I mean, how they competed. I mean, really what it comes down to in this conference is you have to be able to compete, right? Like there's games in there that you're going to go in with not a huge chance of winning, but in those games, you want to be able to walk off the field and say, we played with Stratford, right? Maybe they beat us by 2, maybe 3 scores, but the score doesn't always tell the tale of who you are as a team and what direction you're heading. But when they lost True Thurs last year, they didn't do a lot of competing after that. So yeah, he's a definite difference maker.
Another team that I think can actually maybe knock on the door is Amherst, because they've traditionally been really good, but they got their quarterback in Michael Gladowski back. Again, he's, as they do in that conference, you have to be a multifaceted quarterback to be successful. And Gladowski had 705 yards on the ground, 12 touchdowns, and he also threw the football exceptionally well. And then you have a good target in Sully Perkins, who had 544 yards on 30 catches, all conference a year ago. So again, I just think that, and also sad to see that Wittenberg-Bernewood lost their starting quarterback, Bryson Schmidt, who was a second team performer. He had 1,410 yards on the ground, more than 1,000 yards through the air. Again, just a real engine for that offense, and he hurt his knee. And I saw a story talking about their new quarterback. They're moving from a receiver. He has not played quarterback at all. That makes it tough for Wittenberg-Bernewood.
Yeah, I mean, you have a really good program, and you have a really good system in place offensively and defensively, and you replace. I mean, it's a great strategy. You replace him with a really good athlete. But if you're going to be at the top of that conference, if you're going to compete with Stratford and Amherst and for that matter, Waiawega, if you're Wittenberg, you really need to be hitting on all cylinders. So losing a guy like him is very similar to losing a guy like True Thurs the year before for Marathon.
Yeah, and Waiawega, it's always an interesting story. They got some, again, good production back as well. So you see Stratford, you see Wittenberg-Bernewood, I think they both have questions at quarterback, and that could lead to, I think, some interesting results in that conference.
Yeah, I would say this: and watch Stratford play, and I give Stratford a ton of credit. They come to that scrimmage and they play DC Everest and they play Wausau West, and they don't care. They don't bat an eye. Those kids just line up and go. But that was one thing I noticed. Scrimmage doesn't always tell you a lot. Like guys are, sometimes they hold guys out who are dinged up a little bit or whatever the case. But I mean, Stratford looked in the backfield offensively. They looked very different than they have the last few years with Tubbs under center and those different guys playing. So yeah, it'll be very interesting. And they still, I haven't looked that closely at the schedule, but is Stratford Edgar week 2? Is that
actually, I'm not sure about week 2. I know they got Mosinee in week 1, which is big enough as it is.
Right. So they kind of go, but you will know a lot more about whether they're making another run to the state tournament after week 2, I would say.
I tell you, you're exactly right. They talk about being ready for that conference, and the conference is hard enough, and then you get a couple of non-conference games like that. Stratford, they'll take on all comers, that's for sure. The Merrillwood CWC, and it's the old Merrillwood schools that kind of dominated this new league. You had Edgar again, 7-0, 13-1 last season. Again, made a great run. Auburndale, again, really. It's hard to believe. It's just a few years ago they were struggling to put out an 11-player football team, but they've had some really good seasons. They were 6-1, 9-2 last year. Abbotsford in their never-ending run game, which puts up huge numbers, 5-2, 8-3. Iola Scandinavia, always a solid program. They were put into a much more difficult conference the last couple of years, and they still find their ways into the playoffs. They were 4-3, 6-4. Pittsville, 3-4, 3-7. Pacelli, 2-5, 2-6. Assumption, 1-6, 1-8. And Rochot, who is now out of the conference. They moved to 8-player. They were 0-7 and 1-8 last year. But Edgar, what do you say? Edgar. Yeah. And they got Maverick Butt back, who had great production last season. And they always seem, even if they didn't have kids that were productive the season before, they get them ready to be productive.
Well,
when
and
it-
say
when it's their
Maverick
turn.
Butts probably got 2 or 3 brothers and 7 cousins who are on the team as well. And that, I mean, that's just what they do there at Edgar. And I mean, they're coming off another state championship, and Coach Sins is still there, and that staff's been together forever. So, you know, that they just reload and keep rolling.
And Auburndale. Again, they've had such a good run, and it's and one of the interesting things about high school athletics, you watch and you see that the success goes across seasons. And Auburndale had another terrific basketball season last year on the boys' side. They're always good in baseball, and now the football team is also caught up, and they have been right there. I mean, they have really been right there with Edgar, not getting blown away. They're very tight, and they've kept Edgar on their toes in the conference last 2 years.
I mean, well, I was saying, and wasn't it 2 years ago that they hosted Stratford in level 1 of the playoffs,
Yes, they
if
did.
I'm not mistaken?
Yeah, and they got Peyton Weinferter back as well, who was a first-team receiver last season. So if you're looking for somebody that's going to be able to be productive for Auburndale, obviously he is one of those kids to keep an eye on as well. And they also have a all-conference, second-team all-conference lineman back as well. So it looks as though Auburndale has the tools to be able to be solid again in the Merriwood. And then Abbotsford, and they got a couple of their top runners back. Again, it's like they always seem to have the runners. And for the Abbotsford Falcons, you got Christian Fuentes, who had just under 1,000 yards last year, just 973 yards, scored 10 touchdowns. He's back in the backfield, and also their quarterback is back, Irvin Aguilera. He had 970 yards on the ground, and 591, I think, through the year as well. So, but they run the ball. That's what they do, and they try to get you confused, and they're always a tough matchup.
Yeah, they are. And we talked to their coach a couple times last year, and they have a great program there and a great mindset, and always have a good stable of running backs.
So it's always I think that's an interesting conference as well. And then let's talk a little bit about the 8-player. And you got the Central Wisconsin 8, the Newman Catholic Cardinals are a part of that one. Last season, they were part of a 3-way tie for the championship in that league with Alman Bancroft and Port Edwards. You had Tri-County at 4-3, Marion Tigerton 3-4, Wild Rose 2-5, Menominee Nation 1-6, Boulder Gresham 0-7. But one of the things about 8-player this year that people need to know is, number one, this week they would not be playing a year ago. Now this week they are. Why? They have not added another game. They're still playing 8 regular season games, but the playoffs have been expanded. And like the 7 divisions and 11-player, there will now be 32 teams and 8-player. And I was thinking about this, and we were trying to figure it out the other day. I was over at Newman saying, what's the record going to be to get you in? My theory is it could be some 4-4 teams, because in 8-player, if you have more than 200 enrolled, you're ineligible for the playoffs. So it's going to open things up. I think it's fair. I think because, I mean, you see teams with losing records and 11-player in these playoffs. Yep. So I think it's right that 8-player also has 32 teams in the postseason.
Yeah, and I think this evolution is interesting to me, and I think it will continue to be. I think it's going to continue to grow, and I think we're not too far away from, I mean, they've expanded it. Is the next step then multiple divisions of 2-man and giving those 200 school? I know I've said this in the past. It has to do with the number of athletes you have out for football, the number of athletes you have in your school, and then the number you can get out. Mm-hmm. And then I think there are other factors in place, and some of it's geography. If you live in a part of the state where there's mostly 8-man teams playing in your region, just because you're very rural, even if you have enough kids to play 11-man, sometimes economically and strategically from a school district standpoint, from the decision makers, the money, people who are in charge of the money, you end up playing 8-man football just because those are the teams that you have to play. The other thing we've learned over time is just because you have a bigger school does not automatically equate to being a great team or a solid team or a powerhouse team, right? A lot 8-man football, so much comes down to coaching, and talent makes a big difference as well.
Newman Catholic actually has one of the lowest enrollments in 8-player football by far. I mean, they're not too far above the 100 level in their enrollment at Newman Catholic, but they're one of 2 schools that have made the postseason playoffs every year. They have not missed, and that was with 16 teams. I think they're in good shape to do it again this year. I think one of the things I'm looking forward to watching with the Newman Cardinals is Quincy Fender. He is their quarterback. He was their quarterback to start last year, but he got injured in the first game of the season. He had looked outstanding in that first game. He had well over 100 yards on the ground. He is looking solid. I think he is obviously a very dangerous player for the Newman Cardinals, both offensively and defensively. And I think the Cards are in a good position to make another good run. There's going to be some incredible competition, though. I mean, the defending state champs, Owen Withy. You got teams like Gilman. You got McDonald, who eliminated Newman in the playoffs last year. They're all part of the North Central East Conference. The bad news for Newman is next year they're being put over that conference, and it's like, we got to make some hay this year, because I said it before. Boy, what conference you're in, that makes such a big difference.
Yeah, what conference you're in, we talked about it a little bit earlier too, and where you end up in the playoffs makes a huge difference as well.
By the way, I had a conversation over the weekend concerning seeding. We talked about seeding a lot. There's always a lot of complaints about seeding, and part of the process is trying to put these teams into sort of quadrants based on geography. And a coach I was talking to said, just put them 1 through 32, instead of having where if you happen to be in a quadrant that has 8 of the top 10 teams in it, it's unfair. And I said, I don't think there's a coach around that wouldn't mind traveling for the best matchup.
Well, I think when you look at the different divisions and how that works out, there aren't that many Division I teams north of Highway 10, right? So you either end up going, and if you're in central Wisconsin, you either end up going straight east, straight west, or as the case was last year, straight south, right?
All the schools from the valley had a long trip,
right?
So it didn't really. If you would have make it 1 and 32,
Superior or Hudson, yep. Everybody west down to Waunakee, and so I think at the end of the day, when you look at Superior, right, and in their conference, all the travel they do for that, you've made the playoffs, right? Would you rather have a longer trip and a more reasonable matchup, or would you rather have a short trip and be a 3 seed who has the chance to get pounded by a 6 seed?
Right. No, it's like it is. I mean, I think I would be for the 132 bracket. So it's like, because especially for football, it's on the weekends anyways.
Yep.
So make the travel.
Exactly.
I mean, it was easy for me to say, you guys have to get the buses and all that stuff.
Well, and we obviously, I'll hit my drum a little bit here from being in the Wisconsin Valley Conference. Like, this is our reality right now. Merrill's out this year for everything. So we're now down to a 6-team conference. So when you look at a sport like basketball and you're playing 24 games a year, and you are now down to 10 conference games and 14 non-conference games, travels doesn't mean anything to us, because to fill your schedules, we're traveling all over the state. Every team in our conference, it's certainly not a Wausau West thing. But when you go to these other teams like Fox Valley Association, who has 10 teams in their school, and they never travel further than 25 minutes for any game, or 35 minutes for any game, it's a completely different equation for them.
When we were going to school, it was 80% of the basketball games were conference games.
Yeah.
You had 9 teams. You had 16 conference games, and back then you only had 4 non-conference games.
Right.
And basically for a school like Wausau West, you had the turkey shoot and then 2 more games the rest of the year.
And if you look at the 6 teams left in the Valley Conference right now, the enrollments now range from 900 at Wausau East all the way up to still 2,000 for Spash. So though who knows what it's going to look like going forward, but it's going to continue to look different.
We're going to take a time out, and we're going to start our first interviews of the year, which is always the best part of the show. So
for sure,
we're going to take a time out, and we're scheduled to be joined by Mike Krenz, the Wisconsin Rapids Lincoln head football coach, coming up. And then after that, we'll be talking to Xavier Edwards, who is the DC Upper senior. He'll be our student athlete guest. So that's all coming up here on 98.9 WXCO.
For more than 60 years, Sun Printing has been Central Wisconsin's commercial printer of choice due to their commitment to quality, creative solutions, and dedicated service. Sun Printing's team offers you a wide spectrum of services, whether you need vehicle graphics, offset, digital, large format, graphic design, or mailing. They print everything under the sun. No project is too big or too small, so give Sun Printing a call at 845-4911 or visit them online at sunprinting.com.
A game without a crowd is just a scrimmage. A performance without an audience is just a rehearsal. Without your presence, high school sports and the performing arts aren't possible. Ensure that these essential extracurricular activities continue to enrich the lives of students in Wisconsin. Purchase a ticket to your local high school's game or performance.
This message presented by the WIAA and the Wisconsin Athletic Directors Association.
We are the NFHS. That stands for the National Federation of State High School Associations. But really, what we stand for, together with the WIAA, are the 178,000 high school sports students in Wisconsin. And so we stand. We stand for the runners, soccer and basketball players. We stand for their coaches, administrators, and officials. We stand for the swimmers, football players, and wrestlers. We stand for the golfers, softball, and volleyball players. We stand as the national leader and advocate for high school athletics and all who participate in them and make them possible, because it is our purpose to ensure that high school students get to play, perform, and compete together. To learn more about who we are and what we stand for, visit nfhs.org.
And welcome back. It is the Big High School Sports Show on 98.9 WXCO, online at WXCO.FM, mobile devices, and Alexa by searching WXCO. And on the Civic Media app, I am Chad Holmes with former Wausau West head football coach Jason Foster. And I think we have our guest available. We heard some noise. Well, we're hearing some feedback, and I'm not sure. Is there a... Coach, is there maybe the connection here? Oh, we try something new here. Never heard that before in our interviews with our computer.
That was a new sound effect for the year.
Geez. Coach, I think we may have to try. I'm not sure why we are getting the feedback with you. We'd love to have him through our computer link up here, but unfortunately right now we are having a little bit of technical difficulties. Looks as though Ian, is there anything that we are doing on our end that would be a problem? Or
I don't think so. I changed anything on this end. I'm not exactly sure what the problem is. I'm trying to fix it.
Well, we're gonna have. I'm gonna think we're gonna try to have the coach call in, because at this point, unfortunately, our first experiment, try to get our let's see here. Yeah, we're still having all sorts of difficulties here. Let's play a commercial. We're going to come back. I'm going to connect with the coach here and see if we can't get this squared away. It's week 1 of the new high school football season. There will be 3 broadcasts on 98.9 WXCO. On Thursday night, it's a pair of games. The Wausau West Warriors will open up their season playing host to Superior. Coverage begins with the pregame show at 6:35, live on 98.9 WXCO, online at WXCO.FM, mobile devices, and Alexa by searching WXCO, and on the Civic Media app. Also Thursday night, the Newman Catholic High School football team travels to Lawrence. Catch the action live. Coach, can you hear me?
I can. Can you guys hear me?
Coach, can you hear me?
I can. I don't
Hang on
know.
a second here. Here we go.
I got my microphone is on.
Now it sounds good. All right, now
You can hear me okay?
I hear you good now, but what's the problem when we put you in the studio here? Ian, can you put him up here? Because
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
we're gonna.
He was up here.
All right, Coach, you hear me now?
I can.
Okay,
Am I coming through okay?
You sound fine. So
Okay. Sorry about my tardiness, you guys. We got off the field a little bit late tonight, and we're trying to do our last fundraiser, so it was just crazy.
Okay, let me just get back into the studio. We're gonna go here in just a moment.
Okay.
Play the bumper music.
Yep.
And welcome back. It is the Big High School Sports Show on 98.9 WXCO. I am Chad Holmes with Jason Foster, and we are very happy to bring on our first coach guest for the season, the new head football coach at Wisconsin Rapids Lincoln High School, Mike Krenzen. Coach, glad to have you back on the program.
Thank you. It's a pleasure to be back. Thank you.
Well, I guess first of all, what's it been like? Obviously, it's a new job back in the Wisconsin Valley Conference yet again. But it's a big job. I mean, Wisconsin Rapids has a lot of great tradition, but it's also been a bit of a struggle the last couple of years. What's it been like trying to get this group prepared for week one?
Well, it doesn't differ too much from any other season that I've started with any other program other than my role, essentially. But, the kids are the same. The action's the same. They're all excited to play week one and do all of that stuff. But the difference is, obviously we're learning a new offense. We're learning a whole new defense. So these kids are, they're thinking rather than reacting a lot right now. And so there's a little bit of struggle or a little bit of slow pace to it at times. But other than that, I mean, it's just a bunch of 16, 17 and 18-year-olds getting ready to play football in my eyes.
Coach, what is what was the retention or how much turnover was there in overall staff? Is there a certain familiar aspect, like a lot of guys come back, or did you have to create a brand new staff coming over there?
It's a little bit of a mix of both. My apologies. Anybody that was on staff last year that wanted to remain on staff, I met with, we talked, I offered each one of them an opportunity to continue on. I mean, obviously, being a head football coach yourself back in the day, guys aren't banging down the doors to make a few extra bucks to give away essentially 3 months out of their year. But the guys that Coach Biolo had in place here have been and will continue to be an integral part of this program. It brings familiarity to the kids. But there are some new faces as well. There are some guys that came over with me from Spash. I got a guy that a bunch of interest from guys from UWSP as well that just kind of there's a little bit less of a time commitment for assistant coaches at the high school level than it was at the college level. But it's pretty much a lot of familiar faces. Our receivers coach, quarterbacks coach, tight ends coach are all returning, have been with the program. Our defensive coordinator had been with the program, but he was with the freshmen for a while. Coach Schmidt, who has a tremendous background and will continue to grow in that role. But otherwise, it's a good mix. It's a good mix.
You had such great success at Stevens Point a couple of years back. How anxious were you to get back, to get into the position to start again, with a bunch of great young men to try to get to, a conference championship or just generally make these young men better from the beginning of the end? Did that taste make you want it more?
Well, stepping away from the high school level for a couple of years was very beneficial to me. Luke Vinay and the staff at UWSP are tremendous football coaches, and I cannot wait for that program to turn the corner because it will. But it gave me a perspective on one. It gave me an opportunity to learn and grow as a coach myself. But it gave me an opportunity to really understand where I belong in the coaching game, and that is with this high school level. It moves at my pace a little bit, if that makes sense. And I connect a little bit better, I'd say, with kids this age. My main goal isn't necessarily let's go out and win every football game we play. I mean, that's great. Yes, that is a goal, but that's not my focus. My focus is how do we make sure that these kids leave this high school and become positive impacts in the communities, positive impacts in their families and things like that. Not that collegiate athletics don't do that. It's just the focus is a little bit different up there. And so it gave me that opportunity to come back to this. I am excited to play on Friday nights. There is nothing like playing under the lights in the crisp fall air. It just talking about it gets me excited. And And those 3-hour games on Saturdays, they take a while, you know. They're tough to stand on the sidelines for sometimes.
Yeah, I think it's crazy to see how it all comes around. I think your experience in the Wisconsin Valley Conference, both playing at West, coaching at Spash, now having that experience, I felt when I was a head coach, I was the head coach up at Northland Pines for 7-8 years or whatever it was before I came back to Wausau West. And when I was at Wausau West, I came back and was the defensive coordinator. And then when I had the opportunity to become a head coach again, it was like a completely different experience. Like when you do it, step back, do something else, and then come back to it, it is a completely different perspective. So I hear exactly what you're saying. How valuable is it to have that experience that you've had in the Wisconsin Valley Conference? The tradition at Spash was awesome. The tradition in the powerhouse of Rapids is certainly there, and everybody knows what it is. Being at Wausau West, playing against all these teams, like, how do you feel that that's an advantage or will serve you well, knowing what the tradition means both in this program and in the conference overall?
Well, you know, in the conference as a whole, I mean, I've been around the Wisconsin Valley Conference since 1988 or 1989, when my dad was the defensive coordinator at Wausau West, and just standing on the sidelines watching Mike Dressler do what Mike Dressler did, and all of the fascinating things that he brought to the program at Wausau West. And then, you know, playing with under Greg Harvey when I was there, and then coaching with him. That foundation at Wausau West was, you know, I thought there was nothing better. There's nothing better. You know, this is as good as it gets. And then you start to, you know, play in it and then coach against it. And you're like, wow, this conference is something else from top to bottom. It didn't matter. It didn't matter who was good or who was bad in the eyes of, you know, the experts or whatever. Every week was just it was a must win every single week, because you didn't know what kind of team was going to run out of that tunnel to face you. And so, you know, the traditions that DC Everest holds, the traditions that Spash holds, the traditions here at Wisconsin Rapids that we hold, they're all special in their own sense, but they all culminate together to make the Wisconsin Valley as special as it is. And, you know, right now, you know, I'm learning a lot about Wisconsin Rapids, not just the program, but the community as a whole. And this is a real blue collar, you know, get to work type mentality community. And I love it. I love it because you know that you're going to get the support at home from the parents, because your expectations are going to be, we got to work hard to be good. We're not going to show up and just be good. And so the mentality from home to field to school to work to all of that is straightforward. It's, you have a job to do, get your job done. And so I love it. I've loved every second of it here so far in Wisconsin Rapids. You know, I'm not about to compare it to any time that I've had anywhere else, because each one of those places holds a special place in my heart. But you know, as far as coaching in the conference and being around it for that long, I mean, obviously, Coach Foster, we coached against each other for a year. You know, you took it to us. I wish you'd come back so I had a chance to redeem myself.
I'm good, thanks.
Yeah. But you know, playing at Wausau West with their head coach. I mean, Matt Johnson was the quarterback my junior year. You know, and then Braden Mitchell, who's the head coach at DC Everest, was our offensive coordinator at Spash in 2021 when I was the interim. You know, and then there's just so much about every program in the community. I mean, or in this conference, that I could sit here all night and talk about it. It's a special place to be, and I consider myself extremely lucky to even be considered for this job, much less get it here. So.
Yeah, it's actually, because the follow-up, it's actually kind of fascinating when you look at all. When I first started coaching up at Northland Pines, Ken Beagle had retired from Rapids and became the head coach at Northland Pines. So my first coaching experience was up there with him, and you're naming guys like Mike Dressler, and your dad, Dave Krenz, was my defensive coordinator my senior year, and Matt Johnson's dad was a head coach at West too. So kind of the tree is very, very interesting.
Isn't it? It's quite fascinating. I think about it often. So it's pretty cool. It's neat. It's neat that we get to compete against people that we know, and people that we can fight for 2 hours, and then, you know, just shake hands and be friends right after. It's a good feeling. Yep.
Again, we're talking to new Wisconsin Rapids Lincoln High School head football coach Mike Krenz here on the Big High School Sports Show on 98.9 WXCO. Well, let's talk about what your team's going to look like, because I think a lot of us around Central Wisconsin have a a pretty good idea what Wisconsin Rapids did between the lines for a lot of years. But when somebody comes in, a new head coach, you have different ideas. How different is what the folks coming to see Wisconsin Rapids Lincoln football this season? How different is it going to be?
Well, I mean, we'll be different in a sense that we have to evolve as the game evolves, right? I mean, the game is evolving into get out into space with your athletes and let them do some things. Let them be athletes and do work. And, it's not always this run between the tackles and pound the rock all day long that's going to be successful for you. And it's not that you can't be good at something like that. It's just that other teams, the disparity between who's good and who's not as good is closing. That window is tighter. Your top teams and your bottom teams, there's not a huge gap there anymore. And so you got to make sure that as a coach and as an offense or a defense or whatever the case may be, you're doing everything that you can to put your kids, your athletes in positions to be successful. And so for 20 plus years with Coach Biolo, they were successful with their triple option. And coaching against it, it's really hard to do. It really is. You've got to prepare in a way for a game against them that you don't prepare for anybody else. You don't necessarily have it. It's impossible to run a scout team against something like that because your kids don't understand it unless you run something like it. But they were successful with it. And why were they successful with it? One, because Tony understood it. I mean, he really was a master of it. He studied that part of the game and he knew it. But they had the athletes that they could do it. That was the core of their athletes. And right now we're facing a bit of a shortage of athletes in the football program. I don't think that's distinct to us. I think that all other programs numbers are down a little bit. Football takes a hit sometimes when you see a lot of, injuries and things like that. And moms and dads get a little weary. And I understand that. But so what we're trying to do offensively is spread the ball out a little bit more, and it's no secret, we'll be a pistol eye and we'll run an offense based on finding room for guys like Sawyer Brooks and Cohen Lehman and Caden Shalinski, for those kids to not be running with towering trees around them where they've got some space to run. And then defensively, I don't think our philosophy is changing too much with that. Anytime you played a Coach Biolo coach team, those guys were ferocious and they were gang tacklers and they came at you. But that's been our mentality: take the ball away and 11 hats to the football. So, our scheme might change a little bit, but the philosophy doesn't.
Coach, you mentioned a few names. Sorry, my first week back, I got to closer to the microphone too. Coach, you mentioned a few names. Who are some other kids in the program that have really surprised you, either ability, skill level, or just really good leaders, really good human beings in your program?
We've got a number of kids that are still rising to that. There's been a lot of challenges throughout the first few weeks here. Not in that they can't be successful, just that I am challenging kids to kind of step out of their comfort zone and be leaders when I need them to be leaders. We've got a young quarterback who saw some action last year towards the end of the year as a sophomore, Owen Richardson. Right now will be our QB1. And, I dare not compare him to Riley Warzinski from 21, but they share a lot of things in common. He's a thrower first, but he can get out and he can move a little bit too. And he's one of the strongest kids on our team, which is helpful in that he's tough and he's resilient. In the front line, right in front of him, our center, Navarro Rodriguez, is going to be a staple for us. He's kind of the anchor. He's making the calls. He's the one that the guys are looking to as a senior to make sure that everybody's doing the right thing. We got some young guys up front as well. Vine and Youngworth and Losi are three guys that we'll see. Youngworth is a senior too, but those four guys up front will be the anchors with Navarro. And then Rates as well at guard is going to be good. We're not very deep, but I'll say this: we've got the right 11. If that rings true, we don't have 50 of them, but we've got 11 of them, and that's where we're going to fight with. We got some other young guys too. JD Weiland plays tight end and will start at linebacker for us. Another kid, Oakley Plus, who's only a sophomore. We're looking at him at 3 different positions. But it's really just kind of a team effort with everybody. I mean, everybody's kind of come together. They're all meshing into one. And, we look for big things from a number of guys this year. We can't rely on one guy to do it all. We're going to have to spread the ball out. We're going to have to do things in a team sense.
Let me kind of build on something you were saying early in that response about, challenging the players, because I think, in life you get often challenges one way or the other. And in high school sports is such a wonderful way, I think, to be able to learn some of the life skills that everybody needs to get through their lives. Especially for upperclassmen, coaching change is very difficult. You get used to being around certain coaches because it's a year-round relationship these days. How do you try to make that transition as, I don't know if smooth is the right word, but it can be challenging, especially for a senior who is going into their final year. They've done things a certain way, and then change comes, which happens all the time. I imagine that's one of the big challenges for any new coach and the players as well.
Yeah. The benefit that we ran into this year is that now we have an opportunity with unlimited contact. I mean, obviously we weren't meeting every day, but between weight room and our contact days, we were able to build relationships a little bit sooner and a little bit more in depth throughout the summer, which was very helpful. But I agree. I mean, trying to build relationships with a group of, seniors in their last year is not an easy task. It's not an easy task for anybody, whether you're good at it or not. You have to earn their trust before they're going to do anything for you. And it goes both ways. They need to trust me and I need to trust them. So that was kind of the first part was, let these guys know what I'm about. Let them know what my expectations are. But then at the same time, do what I need to do to help them succeed at meeting those expectations. It's easy to come in and just go, I'm going to rule with an iron fist. And at times it may look like that. It may feel like that. But really, it's their program. It's their program. It's what they want to get out of it. And as seniors, it's if they want to be successful, what do I need to do as your head coach to help you find that success? And for this senior class, and I don't think anybody's gonna deny this. They have not found too much success the last couple of years. They've only won a couple of games here, and it's tough, and it shows on them. And you can see it in the way they practice at times. You can see it in the way that they go about just preparing for any sort of competition, for any sort of challenge that's put in front of them. And so that's been the biggest eye opener for me was it would be easy for me to come in and try to build a relationship, and they just shun me because it looks like everybody's given up on us and now our senior year isn't going to mean anything. Well, that's simply not true. They know that's not true. And it was my job to show them that that's not the case. And so win, lose, or draw, I'm trying to build some memories with these kids so they can walk away with some positive influence moving into the future.
Yeah, I think it's exciting. You go to a place like Rapids that has a rich football tradition along with wrestling and everything else they do at Rapids. And you walk into a situation where those kids, or at least one time, and I would imagine quite a few of them still are living in the weight room and putting up ridiculous numbers and stuff like that. But part of my favorite things about having the coaches on is getting people who are listening to the show to understand that there's way more that goes into this than what offense you run and what defense you run and what are the 40 times or bench presses and squats. It's really the skills, the lifelong skills and what the skill of teaching them how to compete, teaching them how to be good teammates, and that those things don't just happen. Like that's as big a part of the learning and teaching and life experiences that happen as anything else. And it sounds like you're off to a great start.
Well, you're 100% correct there. I mean, if I could just coach football, what a great place this would be, right? But it doesn't matter where you're at. That's just not the case. And it's about making sure that these kids understand how to attack adversity, respond to it, how they treat other people, how they treat their community members, the teachers, how they go about their daily, you name it, coaches have to deal with it. And I don't need to tell you that. And so, but yeah, I wish there was like a 1-800 number that we could tell parents to call sometimes and just be like, look at all the stuff I got to deal with today. Right.
let's talk about your conference going into this year. Obviously, you said it, you know it very well. Last season, you had a team that made it to the state semifinals for the first time in a while for the Wisconsin Valley Conference. It looks like, again, very competitive teams that I think have high expectations. As you take a look around, what do you see?
Well, I mean, I don't think anybody would disagree with me saying that if you want a conference championship, it runs through DC Everest right now. I mean, they proved last year, and from what I've seen so far this year, they're ready to not easily, but they're ready to defend that title and won't shy away from it. Obviously, Spash is going to bounce right back, and they're going to have a good program. They're going to, they lost a couple of key players, but the numbers that they get in that program from year in to year out, they're not going to miss a beat. So they're going to be tough. Marshfield is always a challenge, especially being our rival and being that game. That's a big one for us. Obviously the River Jug is big as well. But that Marshfield, Wood County, Wisconsin Rapids rivalry is a big thing around here. So no matter what the records are going into that game, it's going to be a tough one. The only question marks that I have, not even question marks, the only curiosities I have are I've never really gone against either of the Eau Claire schools. Mm-hmm. I've never faced off against New Richmond or River Falls or Rice Lake. So those are new to me. And those are, and believe me, I've been watching River Falls film all summer long. So I have a pretty good idea of what we're going to see, but they lost a ton of guys. A lot of guys graduated. So we could see a whole bunch of new different stuff. And I don't know, if they're going to change their defensive schemes, offensive schemes, where everybody's going in blind. So it's pretty much a week one. Let's see what you got. We'll show you what we got. But, the Wisconsin Valley is a special place. Obviously, I'm a little bit biased because of that's what I know. But it's always a tough place to play. It always produces some very, very quality matchups. Some kids that are going to play at the next level. And there's always a team that's going to run a little bit deep. If not to the state semis like DC Everest did last year, they're going to be fighting to level 3, level 2, level 3 with a couple of teams. So we just have to show up and we have to take it 1 week at a time. Face the opponent we're at, not look past them, not look to the future at all. It's that week and that week alone. And I think we'll be okay.
What one thing beyond the X's and O's, everything else, when you get on the bus Thursday night heading home after making a rather long trip, is there anything in particular that you just would love to see, no matter what the score is, whatever the result is, that you want to see from your guys at the end of the night Thursday?
Win or lose, I want to make sure that when we're getting on the bus to go home, that our seniors have the juniors and sophomores backs. Whether we're celebrating or we're licking our wounds, I want to make sure that the seniors that we have are picking up the guys behind them, because they need to know that we might face this adversity in a loss, but we're going to move forward from it. Everything is moving forward. We're not looking back. There's no retreating. We will learn from our mistakes here, and we will build on our big successes. But it's important that these seniors understand how crucial their mentality is, because these younger kids are going to learn from them. And so I'm going to be looking very much, not just after the game, but during the game too. I'm going to be looking at our body language. I'm going to be looking at how we're responding to a penalty that goes against us, how are we going to be responding to, any miscues that we may have. I'm going to be making sure that we are responding the right way. And if we're not, we've got to do something to correct those things, because that's a part of success. And we won't find success if we face adversity and can't respond the right way to it.
Coach Foster, anything else for Coach Krenz?
Yeah, I just want to say congratulations. And I think it's fantastic for the conference and Wisconsin Rapids to have you as a head coach. Last spring, when I was a nosy athletic director trying to figure out who their next head coach was going to be, and Chris Veit shared with me that it was you, I couldn't think of a better hire for them. So congratulations. Very excited to follow along this year, and good luck competing in the Valley Conference.
Thank you very much. I really appreciate that. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Coach. And maybe at the end of this first journey, we'll bring you back. I'll be curious to see how this first go around the sun goes.
Sounds good. I always love talking to you guys. I really do. I appreciate it. Thank you very much.
Thank you as well. And best of luck on Thursday night.
Thank you.
Best luck, Coach.
That's head coach Mike Krenz of the Wisconsin Rapids Lincoln Red Raiders. We're going to take a time out and come back with our student at the guest from DC Everest, Xavier Edwards, outstanding senior. He'll be joining us in just a few moments here on 98.9 WXCO.
We are the NFHS. That stands for the National Federation of State High School Associations. But really, what we stand for, together with the WIAA, are the 178,000 high school sports students in Wisconsin. And so we stand. We stand for the runners, soccer and basketball players. We stand for their coaches, administrators, and officials. We stand for the swimmers, football players, and wrestlers. We stand for the golfers, softball, and volleyball players. We stand as the national leader and advocate for high school athletics and all who participate in them and make them possible, because it is our purpose to ensure that high school students get to play, perform, and compete together. To learn more about who we are and what we stand for, visit nfhs.org.
For more than 60 years, Sun Printing has been Central Wisconsin's commercial printer of choice due to their commitment to quality, creative solutions, and dedicated service. Sun Printing's team offers you a wide spectrum of services, whether you need vehicle graphics, offset, digital, large format, graphic design, or mailing. They print everything under the sun. No project is too big or too small, so give Sun Printing a call at 845-4911 or visit them online at sunprinting.com.
A game without a crowd is just a scrimmage. A performance without an audience is just a rehearsal. Without your presence, high school sports and the performing arts aren't possible. Ensure that these essential extracurricular activities continue to enrich the lives of students in Wisconsin. Purchase a ticket to your local high school's game or performance.
This message presented by the WIAA and the Wisconsin Athletic Directors Association.
So, how are the kids?
Well, Emily made the honor roll.
Oh, good for her.
Yeah, we're really proud of her. Tyler, on the other hand, though,
What's going on?
he's been moody lately, just feeling down and not like himself.
Oh, we've been there. Nick was struggling last spring. He was so anxious and stressed.
Really? What helped?
Well, he joined the soccer team, and ever since, he's been a lot happier. He has more energy, he's less stressed, and he's definitely in a better mood at home. It's made a huge difference.
That's awesome.
Yeah, I'm glad he's getting out of the house, he's getting some exercise, and he's off his phone for once. It's been good for his mental health.
Sounds like it's been good for your mental health, too.
Participating in Wisconsin high school sports improves students' physical and mental health. Encourage your son or daughter to get involved. This message presented by the WIAA and the Wisconsin Athletic Directors Association.
Are you passionate about local high school sports? So are we. WXCO 98.9 FM is proud to be the only station in Wausau bringing you live, play-by-play coverage of high school sports, game after game, season after season. But we can't do it alone. We are currently seeking local sponsors and community partners who believe in the power of sports to bring people together, inspire youth, and energize our hometown pride. Promote your business, support our local athletes, be heard by thousands of loyal local listeners. If your business is interested in supporting live sports broadcasts while gaining valuable exposure, now is the perfect time to become a WXCO sports sponsor. Message us on our Facebook page or call or text our sales rep, Aaliyah, at 608-573-1597. That's 608-573-1597. Let's keep Wausau High School sports on the air together.
We are the NFHS. That stands for the National Federation of State High School Associations. But really, what we stand for, together with the WIAA, are the 178,000 high school sports students in Wisconsin. And so we stand. We stand for the runners, soccer and basketball players. We stand for their coaches, administrators, and officials. We stand for the swimmers, football players, and wrestlers. We stand for the golfers, softball, and volleyball players. We stand as the national leader and advocate for high school athletics and all who participate in them and make them possible, because it is our purpose to ensure that high school students get to play, perform, and compete together. To learn more about who we are and what we stand for, visit nfhs.org.
A game without a crowd is just a scrimmage. A performance without an audience is just a rehearsal. Without your presence, high school sports and the performing arts aren't possible. Ensure that these essential extracurricular activities continue to enrich the lives of students in Wisconsin. Purchase a ticket to your local high school's game or performance.
This message presented by the WIAA and the Wisconsin Athletic Directors Association.
For those of you tuned in on YouTube, just want to let you know that we're pushing back our student athlete interview just a little bit. So we're going to come back and start our previews of this week's action. We're doing a recording for the show tomorrow, so it's all going to be edited. So you're getting the sausage being made here tonight. So. And welcome back. It is the Big High School online at WXCO.FM, mobile devices and Alexa by searching WXCO, and on the Civic Media app. With Jason Foster, I'm Chad Holmes. Let's look ahead to week number 1. Yep, the long drive towards the playoffs and ultimately the state finals at Camp Randall Stadium, or in the 8-player tournament, Southwood County. But it all begins this week. And let's start with the Wisconsin Valley Big Rivers Conference East. And let's start with the defending champs in the conference, DC Everest. They're at Rice Lake. And that's a matchup where Rice Lake actually came over to DCE last season and won. And obviously it's a very good program itself. 2 really good programs.
Yeah, when you look at DC Everest and look at that matchup on paper, and Rice Lake is obviously considerably smaller. And Rice Lake just keeps getting better and better as the year goes on. Every year, perennial state tournament team at Rice Lake probably makes a difference whether you're making the drive there or vice versa. So I'm very interested to see how that one shakes out, and kind of a good way for Everest to open their season.
That said, last year after losing in week 1, Everest made the long road trip to River Falls and played an outstanding football game. So sometimes that bus ride can be the best thing for a team as well. You never know. We got Stevens Point home against Chippewa Falls. And obviously Chippewa Falls always a solid program. They seem to be in the playoffs every year. Last season, they in the crossover beat Everest, and Stevens Point, of course, with the conference championship hopes as well.
Yeah. And like I said, Chippewa Falls kind of has that Big Rivers Conference mentality where they've kind of had the upper hand on the Wisconsin Valley teams, even though in the postseason the teams have done well against Chippewa Falls. But I'm very interested. I think Spash is a little bit of a wild card this year, like Coach said in the interview today, that Spash just kind of reloads and has great numbers, but they will have to kind of take a little step forward if they want to compete with Everest this year.
Also, a game that I will have right here on 98.9 WXCO on Thursday night. Live, starting with the pregame show at 6:30, the Wausau West Warriors hosting Superior. It's been an annual season opener for the Warriors now for a 3rd straight year. They went up to Superior the last 2 years. I think everybody is happy not to have to go up to Superior this year. But for Wausau West, obviously, as we talked about earlier, it's be interesting to see some of these more inexperienced linemen, especially, but also a chance to see, as you said, some very intriguing running backs as well for the Warriors.
Yeah, I think there's a question mark. I think Joe did a nice job last year at quarterback when he was in there and he was healthy. And I think they're really looking forward to seeing a completely healthy him and see what he can do throwing and running the ball. And then, those skilled players. I think the big question mark for the Warriors is going to be up front, where they return a couple guys, but they replace a lot. So there's a little bit of youth up there, a little bit of inexperience, and a little baptism by fire on Saturday night. And we'll see how that goes. I think they're feeling really good about where they're at on defense right now. I think they have some playmakers over there who have a lot of experience and are coming back. So they're excited to see what those guys can do.
I was looking at some of the conference numbers from a year ago. And when you looked at both offensively and defensively in the Wisconsin Valley Conference, you had Stevens Point and DC Everest offensively head and shoulders above everybody in terms of yardage per week. Really a pretty big gap between them and the rest of the conference. On the defensive side, there was Everest and Spash, but also Wausau West was right there. They could basically put a blanket around them. And so for Wausau West, with that, I think a very solid year defensively a season ago, an opportunity to build on that.
Yeah, and I think the strength of the West defense last year was kind of on the interior up the middle with DeAndre Bournes and that. And I think right now that the linebacker position, both outside backers and up the middle, I think that's going to be a strength of their defense.
Marshfield at New Richmond. It's becoming a bit of a rivalry, isn't it? Because they saw each other to start off the season. And then as well, we had them be involved in a playoff game last season as well.
Yeah, I think I think we know that now from being in this conference for a couple of years. New Richmond actually is a really nice football program over there. They've been conference champs in the Big Rivers, and they're doing a nice job. And I think we've kind of talked about Marshfield played this game really tough last year to start the season, and then kind of took their lumps the next few weeks. So I think Marshfield's probably chomping at the bit. They played New Richmond tough to end the season last year, so definitely looking to get off on a strong foot this year at New Richmond.
Wisconsin Rapids, we heard from Mike Krenz, the new head coach of the Lincoln Red Raiders earlier. And again, that's not an easy way to start traveling all the way to River Falls.
No, at River Falls. River Falls has a really nice program. I think it is, though. I mean, compared to maybe playing Rice Lake or Hudson or whatever, I think River Falls is a good first matchup for him. And I think it's going to be a good gauge for him, a good thermometer to see where they are in week one and where they need to go moving forward.
Eau Claire North and Menominee. We talked earlier about how Eau Claire North does have some pretty good production back from last season, that they have, I would say, the potential to maybe be a team that makes a little bit of noise in the conference. And you'll find out, because Menominee is always a terrific program as well.
Yeah, and Menominee's been a touch of a wild card the last couple of years. They have not been their normal dominant self. And if I'm not mistaken, I think Eau Claire North has beat Menominee in the last couple of years. Maybe Chad just gave me a look. So maybe I'm way off on that. I'm gonna go back and look. I think it's a possibility.
I think
but
maybe one time you may be right now that I think about it.
Yeah. So I think obviously Vegas probably has Menominee in this one, but it'll be interesting to see where Eau Claire North is at with those returners that they have.
And then Hudson and Eau Claire Memorial. And again, I think the one thing that we have to look at for Memorial this year is they got to play some defense, and they're going to be tested by Hudson.
Yep, for sure. And I think it kind of those, when you look through the conference and who those other crossovers are, I think there's a lot of interested eyes on those other games, because those crossover games in week 2 kind of follow those other Valley teams around.
Great Northern Conference. And Friday night, I am taking a long trek to Westby. The Wausau East Lumberjacks will take on Westby. And at this point, I don't even know what their nickname is. It shows that I'm not as prepared as I need to be at this point.
I know there's a ski jump in Westby, so maybe it has something to do with that.
So it's a 2.5 mile trek from Wausau, but East and Westby, and obviously East, they want to come out and I think set a tone early. That's again a game I think they should be able to get off to a good start and again try to build on what they were able to accomplish making the playoffs last year.
Yeah, I think they feel like they do have a program now. They have a really good coach in place, and they're looking to just reload and rebuild coming off a playoff season. And I think one of the ways you do that with a bunch of new guys, having lost a lot of your star power, is to come out early in those non-conference games and kind of start to see who's going to rise to the top as far as the starters and who your production is going to come from.
A couple of teams that we saw over at Everest at the scrimmage last Friday, and probably one of the really prime non-conference matchups in week 1 is Stratford at Mosinee. It's becoming an annual early season showdown in central Wisconsin. And I think, again, I'm curious to see Stratford at the quarterback position. It's, as you said earlier, a new coach, but Mosinee and Treve Stoffel, I mean, he's going to have a big night in order for them to knock off Stratford.
Yeah, I think this is maybe the most interesting this matchup has been in the last few years, because I think Mosinee might return the best player in Shreve Stoffel, and Stratford's has some question marks. We know they reload. We know they're going to be a great
Right.
football team and a great program and going to be in the mix at the end of the year. But week 1, with all the people Stratford lost, this could be a really interesting game.
Merrill hosting Osceola, and that was a big win to start off the year a year ago for Merrill. They went on the road, a long road trip, beat Osceola, and they, I thought they were a bit of an underdog that night, but they came out and earned that W, and it sparked them to a solid year that got them to the playoffs at Jay Stadium Friday night. I imagine they, again, likewise, everybody wants to, of course, get off to good starts, but I think for a squad like Merrill, again, I think when you've had a little bit of success after not having a lot of success the previous year, you want to get off to a good start.
Yeah, and I think talking to Coach Wadzinski a couple of times last year, he really felt like this wasn't just a team anymore who was trying to win. I think they kind of found their identity and feels like they are a program now. So building off the strong end of their season and having an entire off season with those wins in their back pocket and that motivation or that momentum moving forward, I'm sure they're excited to go back to get Osceola at home this year and start the season on the same note.
Going to move through the rest of the Great Northern teams that are a little further away from us here in Wausau, but you have Medford at home against Holman. Antigo is at your old stomping grounds, Northern Pines.
New head coach there this year as well.
at Antigo?
Northern Pines.
Oh.
Yeah.
But there have been a lot of new head coaches at
Yes,
Northern Pines.
that's
in
true.
recent
This
years.
is actually a guy who was on the staff at Lakeland for quite a while.
Well, is that good news?
Well, we'll see. I think his dad was the state championship coach at Lakeland
that
at one
sounds-
time.
sounds
So,
like
yeah,
good
no,
news.
they're excited.
You got Tomahawk hosting Crandon, Lakeland is at Hayward, Rhinelander at Ashland. Those used to be conference matchups. Any of those games stand out to you?
I think just from the standpoint of, I want to see if Rhinelanders, how much life Rhinelander has, and if they've kind of turned the corner a little bit. And I mean, I think Lakeland has the potential to be a contender in that conference this year. So it'll be nice to see how they match up against Hayward.
CWC Large Marathon is at Pittsville. And these are a lot of crossovers between CWC Large and Merriwood CWC. And that's one of those. Marathon from the CWC Large, Pittsville from the Merriwood CWC. As I said earlier, I do think that Marathon has some good ingredients to make a step forward this year.
Yeah, I think a new head coach, a young guy who marathon star athlete kind of returning. I think that's good. And I think with Truthers, and if he's healthy and
Garrett Bracewell.
I was going to say Garrett Bracewell is a heck of a target for them. I think that's the opportunity for them to maybe make a little hay early in the season and build some confidence.
Last season, Wittenberg-Burnhamwood lost just 2 games in the regular season, but one was in the opener against Bonduelle. That's always a really nice matchup in East Central Wisconsin. This year, Bonduelle is at Wittenberg-Burnhamwood. But again, losing your starting quarterback is such a big loss for Whitburn, especially when you have somebody that has not played the position under adverse conditions with a good team on the other side of the line. I think that's a big step for Whitburn against a good Bonduelle program.
Yeah, I think it's a good matchup. Bonduelle comes from a good conference over there and has a lot of success throughout their history. So how much does Wittenberg-Burnhamwood change what they do based on losing their quarterback, or do they just have the same expectations, throw the next man up mentality in there and they keep rolling? Because you know they're also going to have a really strong defense, and they're going to be strong up front, and those things go a long way.
There are 2 matchups that are interesting in the fact that it kind of feels like this is CWC Large against CWC Small, but the small schools are in some ways bigger names in terms of programs. You got Spencer Columbus at Auburndale, which is from the small, and Abbotsford from the small against Loyal Greenwood. And it feels like those are a couple of games where the CWC Small, CWC Merriwood are significant favorites.
For sure. Yeah, I think some of this is where you kind of get into it a little bit. We talked about East. These conferences are here. If you're not doing crossovers like some of these other ones are doing, finding these non-conference matchups when your name is Edgar or you are some of these powerhouse teams, sometimes it's really hard to find those opponents in that. So I think some of these, the enrollments are a little off. I look at Marcus Ann versus Assumption. I would say that's going to probably be a long day for Assumption in some of those different matchups. So I think we'll learn a lot about some, and I don't think there'll be very many surprises in some of the other matchups.
I got Colby at Stanley Boyd as well. Wyowega Fremont is hosting Berlin, and Amherst against St. Mary Catholic. Anything jump out at those games? Because I can't say that I have a lot of in-depth information on those teams at this point of the season.
No, I think I get my St. Mary's mixed up, so I'm not exactly sure which one that is. So I know Fondy Springs is a St. Mary's as well, but I don't think that.
No, this is not the same.
Yeah,
one,
that is not them. So I think you look at those matchups and you think that Amherst Wyowega should be strong. It's cool. Stanley Boyd Colby could be an interesting game.
Yep. And then finally, the other teams in the Merriwood CWC that are in action. You got Edgar hosting Ladysmith. You have Assumption in their, I think this is their final year of 11-player football. I believe they've decided to finally make the move to 8-player starting next year. They're hosting Marcus Ann, Iola Scandinavia at Shiocton. That used to be a conference matchup, and Pacelli at Manawa, which also used to be a CWC small matchup. Anything jump out? I just know that Pacelli and Assumption in recent years have struggled for numbers, but they give the good battle. They have not fallen off the face of the earth, despite some great challenges, I think, in recent years.
And if I'm not mistaken, I think Manawa suffers the same plight. I think they've really struggled with their numbers and to be competitive too. So that could be a good week 1 matchup for Pacelli.
And what about Edgar?
What about Edgar?
Edgar?
I would say it could be a long day for Ladysmith if I were a betting man.
And 8-player. You got the Newman Cardinals at Florence. That game will be heard on the Sports 2 stream of WXCO.FM. And also on the Civic Media app on Thursday night, they are at Florence. And it's actually interesting because Newman has won 2 of the last 4 8-player championships. Florence won the 8-player championship 2 years ago. But I liked what I saw with Newman at their scrimmage on Friday. I saw the film of the Florence scrimmage, and they look like they have some holes. It's a long trek, number one. That's a long way to go. Florence has been a solid program, but based on what I saw, I think Newman has a pretty good opportunity to get off to a good start.
Yeah, I think historically Florence has had solid athletics, kind of familiar with them from my time up at Northland Pines, not playing them, but being in the news cycle and whatnot. I don't think they have the tradition from an 8-man standpoint that Newman does as far as how well they're coached and the tradition that goes along with expectations. I think probably when they won their state championship, my assumption would be they had a really nice run of athletes come through. And I think so I think like that's probably their situation right now, is they're probably struggling with that a little more. Very excited to see a healthy Newman Catholic go out there and get back to where they used to be.
We're going to take a quick time out and be back with more. It's the Big High School Sports Show on 98.9 WXCO.
So, how are the kids?
Well, Emily made the honor roll.
Oh, good for her.
Yeah, we're really proud of her. Tyler, on the other hand, though,
What's going on?
he's been moody lately, just feeling down and not like himself.
Oh, we've been there. Nick was struggling last spring. He was so anxious and stressed.
Really? What helped?
Well, he joined the soccer team, and ever since, he's been a lot happier. He has more energy, he's less stressed, and he's definitely in a better mood at home. It's made a huge difference.
That's awesome.
Yeah, I'm glad he's getting out of the house, he's getting some exercise, and he's off his phone for once. It's been good for his mental health.
Sounds like it's been good for your mental health, too.
Participating in Wisconsin high school sports improves students' physical and mental health. Encourage your son or daughter to get involved. This message presented by the WIAA and the Wisconsin Athletic Directors Association.
And welcome back. It is the Big High School Sports Show on 98.9 WXCO, online at WXCO.FM, mobile devices, and Alexa by searching WXCO, and on the Civic Media app. With Jason Foster, I'm Chad Holmes, and it's time for our first student-athlete guest of the year. And very happy to welcome into studio from DC Upper Senior High School, part of the Evergreens football team and boys basketball team and track and field team, Xavier Edwards. Xavier, thanks for coming on over.
Yeah, thanks for having me.
First of all, before we talk about any of your sports, I know that last week I saw that you had made a decision on your college. Where are you heading?
I will be heading to Minnesota State Mankato to do football and track.
It's always interesting to talk to the student athletes who have this opportunity, because when you look at the percentages, most student athletes, when they get to the end of high school, that's pretty much the end in terms of their competitive athletics, in terms of outside of going to Sunnyvale and playing a softball game or something like that. What was the process like for you? Because it's always interesting to hear how you make the decision and the contact you have with different schools. What was the whole process like? Anything stand out in that process?
Yeah, for sure. I just knew I didn't want to be done with sports yet. You know, football, track, anything basketball. I just love playing sports, love being around it. You know, that's why my major there is going to be health sciences, exercise science, so athletic training. So I just love sports, wanted to keep doing it. And then, Minnesota State was my first offer. They, gave me the offer first, and they just sent, when I went there, they just all seemed very nice school, things I was looking for in a school. And I just knew when I visited there, it was the right school for me.
That's awesome. I think one of the things we do each week, because usually the athletes we have on are potential guys who are going to play at the next level. And usually we get into September, October, even November, and we're asking seniors, what are you going to do next year? So how much of a relief is it, or is it a relief to kind of have that decision in your rearview mirror and kind of going into your senior year of sports, already knowing what you're going to do, where you're going to do it? Does that feel good?
Yeah, I would definitely say there is nice relief because, all that recruiting stuff, first time we're going through it, my brother, he didn't play college sports. My sister didn't play college sports. So it was our family, first time going through it. So it was definitely a relief because there was a lot of stress, all these coaches pull you one way or the other, and you just got to choose, and it's just nice to get that out of the way.
Are you hoping to be a multi-sport athlete at the college level as well?
Yeah. So I think I said earlier, I was doing football and track. So I'll be doing triple jump, obviously, and long jump. And then I'll be playing receiver also.
Let's jump right in and ask that always hard question. What's your favorite sport? And the coaches aren't listening. So.
I would probably say my favorite sport is still probably basketball, even though, I'm not as good, but I'm still like not a bad player. I just, like getting together with the boys and just shooting some hoops together and just, that atmosphere is just great. And like, there's nothing that beats that. And I've been playing since kindergarten, and just nothing beats that.
Well, based on the game that I saw you play against Wausau West at Everest last season, I always thought you'd been a Division I basketball player. Where you're hitting all those 3-pointers at 30-some points that night, and was that your highest scoring game ever?
Yeah,
I thought so. I thought that guy is supposed to be a football player and a track athlete, and he's out there knocking down all these 3-pointers there. But let's talk a little bit about this football team, and this actually kind of step back and talk about last year, because to make it to the state semifinals, I mean, that's a huge accomplishment. Wisconsin Valley Conference Championship, a school that has so much tradition, but yet your group was able to make a little tradition of their own last year. You had a new coach last year, so there's always question marks. What was the ride like? Because obviously last season, I think there was some expectations, but at the same time, there was no guarantee that you guys were going to win the conference and go that deep. What was that season like?
Yeah, for sure. I think going into it, we had a couple holes. Our defensive backs were looking a little weak, and our defense was looking a little weak. I know we got exposed Rice Lake game. We went down early, and then we couldn't do anything about that. So I think just throughout the season, we just learned each other, and like our coaches just learned each other and how to play with each other. And obviously, we had like a lot of stars talent, like Blake Banks and running back. Logan at QB. Our defense came along together during the playoffs. And I think we just needed to find our true identity and not go back to like, oh, like Stephen Hangren ran this and he did this. And like, I think Mitchell just brought that new like offensive feel, and like he's just offering some mastermind that could, just plug and play wherever you are, like cover 2, cover 3, cover 4, man, he could beat it all. So, and we just, did our job and got us to the state semifinal.
I hope coach is listening, and that you just called him an offensive mastermind. That's going to go well for your touches and your targets on Thursday night.
Go into the AD's office and ask for a raise after that.
So the other piece of that then is you guys, internally, those were your expectations, right? To win the conference and go that deep, but nobody really knew outside of that. So once you achieve that, obviously your new goal is to make it state and return a conference championship, all those things. How do you, and I know you jumped right into basketball, then track, whatever, but when the dust settles and you get back to the beginning of this summer, what was the summer like? Like, what are the expectations? What did you guys do the same? What did you do differently, knowing that now the bar has been raised both by coach starting last year, but what it is you want to accomplish this year? What did you guys do differently this summer? How have you prepared to get back to where you were and maybe even a little further?
Yeah, so I think something we did differently this summer was, I think our school in general just took football more seriously. Like the playoff run, I think just opened a bunch of people's eyes at our school. So like we got like the CTI trainer to help us for lifting, and it was working with Strelo. Obviously that was good. And then I think just in general, like that lift of the playoff run just got more like freshmen, sophomores to come out and just be involved in the lifting, the open fields, the open gym, stuff like that. And then Mitchell obviously watched us over, and he did a great job watching us over, making sure everyone's getting the lift and making sure we're all doing the lift together. And otherwise, everything else was pretty much the same. Wake up early morning, gotta get the lift in, gotta get that open field in, and yeah.
Yeah, we're talking to Xavier Edwards from DC Everest, our student athlete guest here on the Big High School Sports Show on 98.9 WXCO. In addition to everything you've done on the field, you're now a senior, and you mentioned the fact you had some significant seniors a year ago that helped you go all the way. How do you look at your role maybe outside the lines, in the locker room, at the practices? Does it change at all with your experience and your success, what you bring to the plate this season for your team?
Yeah, so I definitely think the coaches expect more leadership role out of me, because last year, I just went out there, did my job, and like seniors, they just led. And I think coaches, and obviously I wasn't like a full-time leader, but I was still a part of like the leadership council and stuff. Sure. But now I'm like the head of leadership council. So, I gotta like be present for the sophomores, the freshmen. You know, I got to be like in the whole scoop instead of just being in my own scoop. I think it like brings a nice aspect to like keep the team all together instead of us just like separating all like apart. And yeah, so
More is expected.
yeah, more
Bottom
is
line.
expected.
Who are the other guys? Like we talked about the seniors who left. Who are the other seniors or maybe even some juniors? Who are the leaders this year as the Evergreens head into 25?
Yeah, so we have a leadership council of 10. So we have our starting center, our starting guard, our starting right tackle, our QB, our running back, me, and then we have a safety, a corner, a linebacker, and D lineman. So we try to get every like individual group. So then if like someone like a sophomore has like a problem with something or there's like something going wrong, then they relay it to that leadership of the group and then they can tell it to the coach.
For folks that may not be familiar with that, with the leadership council, how does it work in everyday parlance? Because you said it's like somebody has a problem, you're able to have somebody to talk to, but that's significant. I mean, because obviously a lot of issues start off small and turn big. I imagine that it's important to try to get those problems really smashed quickly, correct?
Yeah, for sure. I mean, that's why we try to get out of guys early or try to recognize it early so it doesn't end up being a big issue later. Because I know last year, like we had this like D Broders. He was like a constant, like every week there was something wrong and we had to keep picking him up. You know, he wasn't liking where he was playing and we had to keep picking him up and he ended up staying for the ride. Like at one point he was going to quit, like he was done. And I think that leadership council really helped him, boosted him to like keep going, stay in the team. You know, it's a plan. Just do your 9% of the field and we'll be fine.
Is that and I think I know the answer, but I'm going to ask it anyway. That's not something that starts the first day of football, right? That's something that you guys work on like year round. Can you speak a little bit to what it looks like in February and March versus it's not just a 9-week thing that starts in the beginning of August?
Yeah, for sure. So Mitchell kind of gets like a bigger leadership group. So 30 guys, right? So we do that 30 and then we do like a book study. So I know sophomore year and junior year, we did the same book or going into like those years. So it was like a leadership manual by like a certain author. So, and I read it twice, obviously. So I learned like new things first time and then the second time. So that was really nice. So we read the book, we do like a book study. So we meet once a week during the school year. And then throughout the summer we meet. And then once it gets to like August, we're done with the book. And then we have like a separate leadership council group that we vote on as a team. So then if you want to be on it, you can get voted. So I think like most of us wanted. So it's like 27 out of 30 of them like want to be on the leadership council. And then our team votes for that. And then it comes down to 10, which we'll have the leadership council during the school year or like the football year.
Let's turn away from the field for just a few moments. You talked about what you want to study in school at the next level, but right now, as you start your new year, and it's probably maybe too early to ask you, but what normally is your favorite class? Maybe what subject do you like?
Favorite class is definitely gym. Get to mess around. You know, we got like classes like nets and rackets. We got pool. We got rock climbing. You can really do anything at Everest. So those are always fun. And then like a favorite like actual class is probably like science, like learning about your body and stuff. And like those are cool, like chromosomes and stuff like that. That's cool.
I know you've mentioned your brother. Having somebody that's gone through the athletic aspect of it, how has that helped you?
Yeah, I think he just was a great leader growing up. Like he always just set a good example for me, and I always wanted to be like him. You know, he got first team all conference outside linebacker when he was a senior, and he got second team when he was a junior. So I just always like looked up to him, and he was always just like was my best friend growing up. So, you know, just doing those like even like little video games like that, that little battle and rivalry that like gets us amped up, and just wanted to be him. And yeah.
You've talked a lot about all your other sports and what your favorite classes are, what you're doing. If you do have any free time when you're not in the weight room or at practice or playing games or getting ready for all of your sports, what do you like to do when you have some free time?
Yeah, so I talked a little bit about video games. Me and my brother play video games quite a bit. And then if not, just doing other sports, honestly, like our friend group will go play some pickleball some days.
I was going to say, you a pickleballer? Very good.
Yeah, going out to eat, stuff like that. or just like, going to watch the sunset at Red Mountain. Like I enjoy that. Just enjoy some like outside air, just hanging out, talking with your friends, chilling out a fire, talking just about life.
Does your circle change a little bit from season to season, or is it pretty much the same group throughout?
Well, we have like a main group
Yep.
that I always hang out with usually during the season, but like there's some like seasonal friends that like, maybe some underclassmen
Yep.
I'll hang out with a little bit more. And then once football comes to the end, like I'll hang out with some underclassmen for basketball.
How do you try to balance your time? Because I mean, you got 3 sports. I mean, that's a lot. And nowadays it seems like everybody wants their athletes to be part of even the off-season programs and everything else. And then of course you have your academics and you have, your social aspects that are vitally important as well, family time. How do you try to balance it? Is there ever a point where you find difficulty balancing it? I guess generally because being a multi-sport athlete is not easy.
Yeah, for sure. I would say more in like the summer, it's hard to balance because like this summer it was really hard trying to get out to like Mankato and Augustana and Sioux Falls and stuff. So that was hard. Like the weekends, I couldn't really do much with my friends, and that was hard to like accept that like I can't be with my friends like my whole life. Like I got to do what I want to do myself. So it's definitely hard balancing the summer because you got summer workouts for football, basketball, track. Sometimes I do by myself.
Mm-hmm.
And then during the school year, I would say it gets a little easier because it's more like a scheduled thing. You just go to school, 7 to 3 or whatever. And then you got practice after, and then, finish up your homework, and then you can do whatever you want after that.
Mm-hmm.
So I think it's easier during the school year, and then the weekends, and then I got a job too, like the summer with the job. That was tough. So just trying to balance all the time, send my schedules to the job. Oh, I can't work these days. And they're like, oh, shoot. But, they know I'm busy.
So you've had a unique opportunity. Obviously, you're a very talented athlete and work very hard and have earned all the things you've come. But being at DC Everest over the past 4 years and the sports that you play, you've had the opportunity to be coached by a lot of different people, right? There's been turnover in the basketball program. You've had a couple different football coaches. How has that helped you? Like, I know there's probably some drama, like, oh, geez, I got to get to now I got to prove to this coach all those things, right? But how do you think that's going to help prepare you for life after high school, both as an athlete and as a young adult, and some guy someday having a good job and maybe being an employer, that sort of thing? So how have those changes, like, what has that experience been like for you?
Yeah, I think it just gives me a new look. So we just got a new head coach this year for basketball, and I just got to put my head down and work. It doesn't matter what the last coach said about me, like what he praises, what he didn't like about me. I just got to put my head down and work. You got to impress the coach. You got to work hard because nothing is guaranteed. Like when you get that new coach feeling, you're like, oh, my spot's so guaranteed. Like I was a starter last year. Like nothing's guaranteed. Like a sophomore could start over me if they worked harder than me, showed up more than me and stuff. So just being able to adjust and, because the new offense, I like the new offense, and he's got a lot of big things planned for us. So we'll see. And then for football, Strelo, kind of brought me up sophomore year. So that one was definitely harder because, he's still around in the weight room, but he was my receivers coach and my head coach. So he taught me most my craft and stuff. So, getting Mitchell in there was a little bit of adjustment, doing stuff, more work, I guess, but in the long run, it'll probably benefit me. And then when preparing for real world or college football, I think I just have that experience with changing of coaches. I obviously we're in touch, but just, learning the scheme fit will be easier, and all that will just be easier because I learned it all in high school.
What is the biggest area that you're going to have to get better at to be able to transfer your skills from the high school level to the college level? Maybe the things that you're going to be working on this season as a member of the Evergreens that you have to get better at in order to be on the field at the college level.
One thing I probably have to get better at is my attitude sometimes, because sometimes make a bad play, you just want to take your helmet off and just slam it, but you can't. And I feel like that was always growing up, that was a big problem for me. Just whenever I made a bad play, I would always pout or get mad at myself, and then that would end up hurting the team on defense or next play or and my next jump or something. So I feel just being able to get that positive mental attitude and just being next play, I got a next play, that was just a mistake, and I know I can do better than that. So definitely get my attitude up. And then obviously I'm working on my leadership now, And obviously I'll be a freshman like going into college, but
Sure.
anyone can be a leader, even if you're a freshman or you're a coach. Like anyone can be a leader.
What about Thursday night? I mean, you said it last year was kind of a rough way to start. It's like, oh, what's going on with Everest? And then, of course, everything turned out okay. But, boy, Rice Lake's a great program. And you got the road trip Thursday night as you guys have been preparing for this week. What are you being told by Coach Mitchell and the rest of the staff? And what are you going to have to do to make it a fun bus ride home on Thursday night?
Yeah, for sure. Going into this week 1 of Rice Lake, I think it's a little different. I think we're more like prepared and we're more like, we know what Rice Lake's going to run, because last year was the first year of like our change schedule, because we played Hortonville and like those teams sophomore year, and then junior year we switched to Rice Lake and River Falls. So I think we're more prepared and we know what they're going to run. As of last year, we didn't know what their run. We didn't know their triple option. Like we didn't know like they throw 5 times a game. So I think we got a better game plan of what they're running. And then obviously they lost a bunch of seniors last year, and their running back, linebacker, QB, tight end, you can name it, like pretty much lost it. So like with the new secondary, they got a whole new secondary. Mm-hmm. So I think there's going to be holes that we can take and take advantage of, on the throwing game, and also like the run game. Like once we get that throwing game in and, secured, then it'll open up the run game for our running backs. And I have no doubt in any of our players that we can beat them one-on-one.
All right. You mentioned a little bit earlier some of the seniors we lost, or you guys lost from last year. Who are some of the guys we should be looking to hear on the radio or on the live stream on Thursday night?
Yeah, for sure. For sure, Corbin Enzenroth, he's a senior this year. He hasn't got like a big opportunity, but I know him. He's quick. He's fast. He could potentially look like a Blake Bankson out there. I'm not saying anything crazy, but
that would be something.
No expectations here.
And then for sure, our QB, Jake Stasiak, he had a small sample size of that half of homecoming, but he played great, got me the ball, got everyone the ball.
Well, that's the most important thing, right?
Yeah, he played great in that half, and, he's been a great leader, and just he loves football, and like he's been waiting for this opportunity since he's young. So, and then for sure, like some defensive guys like Silas Weber, he should be a name you should be hearing a lot. D-back, he's good safety, good coverage guy, good tackler, like he's got it all. And then like Asa Martin, he's a corner. Like he didn't have a great game against Rice Lake the first week, but got him slid down the depth chart a little bit, but he took that personal. He's gotten so much better, and I think he's ready to go show him that like that last year me wasn't me. Like this is a new me. Yeah, and then obviously myself, I gotta say myself.
Yeah, absolutely.
Obviously expectations are pretty big for me. Almost had 1,000 last year with 7 touchdowns. So obviously expectations are big, and Jake's got me. I think he can throw me the ball well and should be good.
Who are the big guys up front?
Yeah. So obviously we lost Oscar and a couple our tackles. Big guys, Chris Ferrario, he's a freshman last year. He's back. He was second team last year, so he's gonna be a big contributor on our whole line. And then we had a couple guys that were in and out last year, Will White and Carson Zesh. They're big guys, they can move. Not the smartest, but they definitely can push their guy, and they can definitely do some nasty things down there.
Who's your favorite opponent to play? Who's the favorite rival?
Favorite opponent? I would probably have to say Wausau West,
Well, you
that
proved it last year.
Yeah. That rivalry.
Remember the football game? You got a grab right on the near sideline that was pretty darn impressive.
Yeah. That rivalry. That's just that just brings another spark into me. Like we go 15 minutes or they come 15 minutes to us. Like we just got to bring it to them, and like we can't lose that one. If any game we win every game, we can't lose that one. Or we lose every game, we have to win that one. Like.
I think they kind of feel the same way. I think over time it's been East and West and some different things, but I think the rivalry has kind of evolved to be the Everest West matchups in all sports. So I think that's I love those games as well.
Anything else for Xavier?
No, congratulations to you on your commitment to Mankato. That's a great program, a great school. They're lucky to have you, and super excited to watch how the Evergreens go this year, and hope you have another fantastic season.
And we have always one final question. I always let him, if he had one, but he didn't have one. So we have our final question we give to our student athlete every weekend. It's a good one for you because you obviously had a lot of experience in different sports during your years at DC Everest. But for a freshman that's just starting their journey at DC Everest and excited to be part of any of these athletic programs, what piece of advice would you give based on what you've learned over the last number of years that you'd give somebody that's just starting their journey?
So 2 things. First thing, I would say be present at summer things, because that's the main part of, building your muscle, building your strength, learning the playbook, all that stuff. Like, you have to be present in summer if you want to play football in the fall. Like, it's a non-negotiable. You can't just show up first day and be like, oh, I'm gonna start at receiver, I'm gonna start at QB, and not know the playbook, not be there with the guys the whole summer. And then 2, I would just say take the coaching from the coaches and the upperclassmen. Like, they know best. They've been in the program for 4 years plus, and they know what they're talking about. So, like, don't be like, oh, like, I want to be cool, I'm gonna do this. Like, you want to work hard, and you don't want to act like nonchalant or like flashy and stuff. You want to work hard, and you want to listen to what they're saying to you, because it'll benefit you in the long run.
Fantastic. Well, Xavier, again, thank you for coming on over. I know it was right after practice. You got first week of the season. I know it's such a busy time. Really do appreciate it. Best of luck on the football field, on the basketball court, and the track and field realm as well. And especially, again, as you head to Mankato next year as well.
Yeah, thank you.
Absolutely. Xavier Edwards from DC Everest. We'll take a quick time out and be right back. Big High School Sports Show, 98.9 WXCO.
Well, Emily made the honor roll.
Oh, good for her.
Yeah, we're really proud of her. Tyler, on the other hand, though.
What's going on?
He's been moody lately, just feeling down and not like himself.
Oh, we've been there. Nick was struggling last spring. He was so anxious and stressed.
Really? What helped?
Well, he joined the soccer team. And ever since, he's been a lot happier. He has more energy, he's less stressed, and he's definitely in a better mood at home. It's made a huge difference.
That's awesome.
Yeah, I'm glad he's getting out of the house, he's getting some exercise, and he's off his phone for once. It's been good for his mental health.
Sounds like it's been good for your mental health, too.
Participating in Wisconsin high school sports improves students' physical and mental health. Encourage your son or daughter to get involved. This message presented by the WIAA and the Wisconsin Athletic Directors Association.
And welcome back. It is the Big High School Sports Show on 98.9 WXCO. Chad Holmes along with Jason Foster. And as we finish things up here for week number 1, I learned a couple of things. Number 1, it's never smooth when you come back, but we plowed through it. I thought both of our guests were terrific.
Absolutely.
Mike Krenz, I thought, gave us a lot of really good information about taking over. And one of the things I really, and you asked Xavier about it, Xavier Edwards, our student athlete guest, that when there are changes in coaches, that does affect a lot of people. And it's not an easy adjustment, is it?
No, and you look at Coach Krenz and going to Rapids, and Rapids has had 2 head coaches in the last 30, maybe 40 years, with how long Beagle was there and how long Biolo was there. And so those are big shoes to fill. I mean, obviously Rapids hasn't had a lot of success in the last handful of years, although they were co-conference champs not too long ago.
Not long at all.
But Tony had an incredible run there. So those are big shoes to fill. So you want to honor the tradition and what's been done there. And Tony's still there. He didn't retire and leave. He's still at Rapids. I think he's going to teach 1 or 2 more years. So that guy's right there. Watch. And Tony's phenomenal. He's not, I'm sure he offered up anything that Mike wanted, not going to get in his way in other areas, but that's a challenging situation. Everything you do right, people can say that the previous coach built that. And if things go wrong, they can turn on you in a hurry. But I think that Mike has, even though he doesn't have a ton of head coaching experience, he did the interim year at Spash. He's got a lot of really, really good experience. Yeah. He's coached with a lot of coaches when he was listing his time at West and the different people he played for and coached for, and his time at both Spash and at UWSP. I mean, one of my favorite things when I was still coaching was going to, when we would do that Central Wisconsin camp, and working as little as possible of the stuff that I do, but watching the Everest linebackers coach, what drills does he do? Watching the Newman coaches, what do they do? Watching, and so on and so forth. So he's had that opportunity, and he's no spring chicken either. There's a lot of gray in that beard and that hair either. So he's not a young guy coming into this. He's got great experience. He's got great insight and understanding of where he needs to go. And I loved his attitude and approach that win, lose, or draw, these are our expectations in the program. And if you win, you don't get too high and you learn from it and you still get better. And if you lose knowing you put it all out there and what do you have to fix to get better for next week. And ultimately, the ultimate thing for all coaches, and I love that he pretty much opened with it, is we want to win football games. That's our goal, is to win games. Our purpose is to create good young men who go out, who leave our program, our high school, and go on to do great things and represent, in their case, Wisconsin Rapid Lincoln very well.
I asked him at the end of the interview about what he hopes to accomplish or see when they get on the bus. You obviously had a lot of season opening games in your years. What were you looking for in week one? Because it is non-conference. Ultimately, it does not make or break a playoff run or a conference championship run. How did you look at week one? What did you want to see from your teams? Obviously, they probably changed in different groups, but I think there's probably some commonalities.
Yeah, I think the underlying factor you always want to see, the two things really. The biggest one is compete. You want your kids to go out and compete, whoever the opponent is, however long the game lasts and what the outcome is. You want to be able to week one, you're for sure going to walk away no matter how good or bad it goes, knowing you got a ton of work to do from week one to week two. We always say that's where the biggest improvement is made, right? But you want to be able to compete and you want to see their attitude, right? What is the fabric of this team? Are they cocky? Are they arrogant? Are they aggressive? Are they physical? So those are all some of those things you can't teach or get a lot better in from week one to week two. But you really want to, you kind of get that pulse and the heartbeat of your team from after week one. But the biggest thing is you want to know if we're going to compete. You want to know if you're going to, when the ball's snapped until the whistle blows, who's going to go up until that whistle.
Any games or trends that you're looking for this week? I'll throw one out there just to start off. Last year, I remember in week one, I think, if I'm not mistaken, Wausau West may have been the only team to win these crossover games. I'm curious to see how the WVC BRC East does against the traditional BRC. I think that's going to be interesting to see, because we talk, I think last few years when we talk to coaches from this area, it's about competing with these teams from other areas of the state. And I think, again, it's an early example.
Yeah, I felt like we took the Wisconsin Valley Conference, took their lumps in those week one, week two matchups last year. And then I felt come the end of the season in the playoff times that started to turn a little bit as it went. But when you ask which ones I'm looking forward to, those are the ones I'm looking forward to. I want to see Marshfield, New Richmond. I want to see Rice Lake, DC Everest, Wausau West, Superior. Because that gives you some insight as to what things are going to look. The other thing that's really interesting too, I very specifically remember Everest last year took their lumps against Rice Lake, and then they were down Chippewa, right? Week two. Who'd they go to week
Falls.
2? They went to
they moved the game. Remember, they moved
weather.
the game.
They had to play it during the day,
and they ran for like 500 yards that day. And you talk about big jumps between week one and week two,
right?
Everest had that
big jump. I think they were down early in that game.
Yeah, they gave up some points, but boy, they ended up winning by about 4 touchdowns.
And then all of a sudden, they are a level 4 playoff team. So I think, in addition to that, I think Mose and East Stratford is very interesting. I think East Westby. I mean, new conference, but kind of, I think that conference is up for grabs a little bit this year. So excited to see those early performances from some of those other teams there.
Let me let people know what our broadcast schedule looks like. Thursday night, we got 2 games. Wausau West hosting Superior. I will be live from Tom Field, starting with the pregame show at 6:30 and the opening kickoff at 7 p.m. on 98.9 WXCO, online at WXCO.FM, mobile devices and Alexa by searching WXCO, and on the Civic Media app. Also on Thursday night on the Sports 2 stream of WXCO.FM and the Civic Media app, Newman Catholic making the long trek to Florence. So if you don't want to go to Florence on Thursday night, you can tune in live on the Sports 2 stream starting at 6:40 for the pregame, 7 o'clock for this kickoff. That game will also air on delay following our Wausau West broadcast. And then on Friday, Wausau East at Westby. Lumberjacks make the long trek to Westby. So if you don't want to go to Westby, you can tune in. I will make the trek for you at 6:35 for the pregame, 7 o'clock for the opening kickoff. So again, we are very proud to be the only Wausau radio station to provide live play-by-play of high school sports here on 98.9 WXCO. Jason Foster, any final thoughts? Anything you want to, final words of wisdom before we head out to week number 1?
Well, I don't know how much wisdom I have, but I would say this is awesome. It's great to be back in it. And I'm really looking forward to next week when we have actual results to talk about. And a little less speculation, a little more reality, right?
And we look forward to seeing, who jumps out for a student athlete guest and who jumps out for a coach guest. And that's one of the fun things. We never know when we do this who's gonna be our guest next week.
Yeah.
And we got very lucky. And I'll give you all the credit because I asked you last week. I said, "Hey, who should we get as coach guest?" And I have to be honest with you, it never occurred to me to get Mike Krenz, and it just was a perfect guest, I thought, and Xavier Edwards as well. So it's like, hey, I think we got off to a very good start this week.
Big shoes to fill next week.
Yep, there you go. But we will see you next week.
Looking forward to it.
Thanks to our in-studio engineer Ian Welsh for pushing all the right buttons for us as well. And we'll be back next week. Wednesday night. We'll be live next Wednesday night from 6 till 8 p.m. The Big High School Sports Show on 98.9 WXCO.